Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again for E2 Connect, where we connect with elders in hopes of learning how to be better, more effective elders. And today we explore Deacon Ministry.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the E2 Effective Elders podcast. Visit us at e2elders.org and please share this good word with others.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to E2 Connect. And we're so grateful to CDF Capital for their continued investment in elders, not only across the country, but around the world. And E2 has been blessed because of CDF Capital's continuing investment in this ministry. Today, welcome Neal Daunhauer, and he is the lead elder at Sherwood Oaks Christian Church in Bloomington, Indiana. Neal, it's good to have you back.
Gary, great to be with you. Great to be with the rest of you as well.
Well, we're so grateful that you're coming back to help us understand S for structure. And if everybody remembers, we've devoted all of 2021 to the 6 challenges that elders face, ELDERS. Neal was with us earlier this year to talk about that S structure, the internal structure of the church. And why Neal spoke with us earlier was because Sherwood Oaks did a shift with regard to elder leadership. And Neal led the charge for transitioning to elder governance. Neal, real quick, before we get into deacon structure, give us a recap of how things are going with regard to elder governance.
Yeah, so just to back up one more step, Gary, we, as you know, Tom Ellsworth had been at Sherwood Oaks for 40 years.
40 years. Mm-hmm.
40 years. And in the transition time of Tom's retirement, although, as you know, Tom really never retired. He's very active.
He's helping E2 as one of our coaches.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And many others, as we knew he would. We knew that after those 40 years, we needed to really think about things different. We also had 3 additional campuses beyond the main Sherwood Oaks campus. So we knew that structure was going to be important. We had gone through a full year vision frame process and came out before Tom transitioned. So when we went through the transition and then we got to the point of which we never expected to send Tom off in a virtual sense because a pandemic was among us. Mm-hmm. We were sad, but we also wanted to celebrate and say, hey, look, let's really look at what the elders are doing, because we were in a lot of weeds level discussions. Mm-hmm. And so God had orchestrated, Gary, our conversations with you and E2 to look at elder governance, the 5P structure that made so much sense to us. And we continue to use that as every week that we meet, which is twice a month. Mm-hmm. We use that as our framework for governance. Now, when we talked about structure, we also had as part of our vision frame, leadership multiplication for the purpose of meeting needs of at-risk people groups, targeted transformation of at-risk people groups. Mm-hmm. So the leadership multiplication model had been figured out. But once we went through the elder governance structure piece, the staff structure, we started to look at then what you want to talk about today, which is our deacon structure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for those who are listening and or watching, many a time a local church will have a complicated deacon ministry. And sometimes that deacon ministry is constraining. Sometimes it is restricting. And why don't you, Neal, share with us a brief description of what the deacon ministry involved there at Sherwood Oaks. And for people who are unfamiliar with Sherwood Oaks, God has blessed your church family over those, for example, those 4 decades with Tom preaching there. You went from just a little over 100 people to thousands of people. And so you have this deacon ministry in a church of many thousands. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the deacon ministry has always been, we've always had anywhere between 10 and 20 deacons at a time. Mm-hmm. The focus of our deacon ministry was serving widows. and helping those who, communion visitations, which the elders do as well. We still do this. But it was fairly narrowly focused. So what we witnessed, Gary, is that over the years, a deacon who felt God's leading for serving and said, a deacon, wow, I'm not worthy to be a deacon. And we said, yeah, you are. Actually, come in and we'll work with you. And they would actually come in, and many of them would say, I don't really feel like I'm serving here. I can serve more outside by not being a deacon, because this thing is so narrowly focused. And if that's the way you want it, if that's what the Bible says, then let's do it. And I think as we saw the deacon, we saw many of our core leaders. I mean, these are business leaders, community leaders, who essentially came in and out of the deacon ministry by saying, you don't really need us. You just need people who can serve in this very limited capacity. And then as we started talking with you, and we started really a year ago, as we started to work together with E2, we met with our deacons. We went through the process. We did surveys with deacons and elders to figure out what is it that they see and feel and hear. And that really turned up a lot of what we saw as a great opportunity to expand the ministry, but clarify the role.
Yeah. Very good. And so now you mentioned you took a survey. So that means you involved some perspective of other people. You had conversations, obviously, with those who were existing deacons in the church, with staff. It's obvious that this has been a journey. You didn't just quickly in one elders meeting reinvent deacon ministry at Sherwood Oaks. Can you help us understand a little bit about that developmental journey? Yeah. And then maybe, why don't you share with us then perhaps what it now looks like? Where have you landed, at least in this part of that journey of reinventing deacon ministry?
Yeah, so we essentially developed a deacon steering group with our pastoral care minister full-time, two of our deacons, the current deacon chairman and the former deacon chair, and then myself and the vice chair of the elders. We just formed a small group. Now, we brought in different people throughout our meetings to speak into it, but we were able to really look at the survey. We took about a month, let people take the survey. The survey was a bunch of questions. I'd be happy to share it with you.
And who completed the survey?
The elders and the deacons completed the survey.
Okay.
Yep. So we also, we asked the campus ministers, the four lead campus ministers also completed the survey. Because we wanted to really get a sense of what people were feeling. And the two takeaways, Gary, were interesting. One was we feel limited. We feel limited in serving by being a deacon. The second one was we feel incomplete without women as deacons. And those two, they weren't prompted. They came out as the number one and number two issue that we felt we needed to address. And so we started studying. We obviously talked to you. We developed out what we thought was a role. And then we started to road test that. We brought staff in. We brought women leaders in. We brought a lot of people into this to say, speak into this. There were two issues that came up. Deacon is a biblical term. It's a biblical role, but it isn't really an office. So it's the name of it meaning servant, as we've talked. So should we change this to lead servant, or should we keep deacon? There weren't many people who really felt strongly about that. But once we started looking at it, we said we could use both in a leadership model. And I can share that. I can share that with you here.
Yeah, let's if you could pull that up on the screen, that would be great. And that word deacon, we have to remember diakonos in Greek. It just simply means servant.
And you'll see that here at the top. So this is the plan, and you're going to see the date on here. It's fairly recent. So we're building the plane as we fly it. And the two principles of core ministry methods, leadership multiplication, raise up and release leaders to do ministry and targeted transformation, stand beside at-risk people groups to receive so that they can receive ministry. Those really govern what we do in any area of ministry across the churches. So essentially what we learned, even through some additional study, was that even in the case of the deaconess of Phoebe, where Paul in Romans 16:2 said, I commissioned to you Phoebe, who is a great helper to me, but she's a great helper of many. Right. Receive her, take care of her, because she's going to bless you. And that was a staff person who was working among the churches, saying, I'm working alongside of my deaconess Phoebe, and she's a great help to many. So that broadens the role out, right? So we started to then look at the opportunity for our deacons and the lead servants to be an extension of our staff. And ultimately and eventually, the goal is that everyone within our campuses becomes a deacon or a lead servant or a volunteer on the serve teams. So those, the piece that we learned through the elder process with you with the 5 Ps was that our group, our steering group, said, what's the equivalent of that for a deacon role? And so, Gary, you called me early one morning, didn't expect me to answer the phone, and said, I've got it. I've been studying all morning. This was like 6:30. And I was up and I'm like, I've got my pen in hand. I'm ready, brother. And so devoted, duty, demonstrate, delegate, depend.
Yeah, right down here. So the 5 attributes of serving as a deacon lead servant. So 5 Ds: devoted, duty, demonstrate, delegate, dependable. Just like elders have the 5 Ps of responsibility. Yep. Okay, very good.
Serve others with your gifts to set an example of multiplying trusted servants. So that's how, the goal across the board. When we study this out, it aligns really, really well with what we read in Scripture about. Now, the specific role of there are multiple roles here. So this is phase 1. We actually have a vision for 12 deacon teams, and they are vertically integrated teams with staff. So we really probably will see the big deacon meetings of all 16 deacons that's probably going to go away. We'll get together maybe once or twice a year to celebrate, but we're really now focused on these areas. So the very first one that I'll just share, the roles are the church staff, campus administrator. Those are some of the outlying campuses for the main campus. The pastoral care leader and the spiritual formation director would have a lead deacon of the care team on their campus. That lead deacon is named, selected, approved by elders. And that person and the staff, the lead staff, they go into the volunteer network and say, who are the leaders that God is calling? And those leaders would be the lead servants. So in this case of the care team, there would be 8 lead servants working alongside of the deacon. The lead servant would be very focused on an area of serving, community visitation, emergency childcare, funerals, so on and so forth. And the lead servant would be the one who orchestrates the activity and the volunteers on the serve team. So that's essentially how we envision this happening. So people would be coming up through this system, if you will, but it would be really about their calling. One thing
So the Holy Spirit may stir a man or a woman to have a heart for compassionate care. And if they have that gifting out of Romans chapter 12, if your gift is mercy and encouragement. So they might say then on their campus in Bedford, Indiana, or their campus there near Campus East in Bloomington, hey, I want to volunteer in mercy and encouragement, this care team. And it might be that they feel, hey, I want to help with grief. I've walked through grief. Let me be a part of that funeral care team, that funeral dimension, or something of that nature. And it could be both a man or a woman, correct?
Yep. Okay. The deacon can be a man or a woman, the lead servant, a man or woman, or the volunteer leader, man or woman.
What we want to remember is that, for example, in the Restoration movement, our churches even when we go back to the founding years, people like Alexander Campbell, he himself made mention of Phoebe of Kenkrea there in Romans chapter 16, and he referred to her as a deaconess because the very same Greek word diakonos that was used for by the Apostle Paul in 1 Timothy chapter 3, Paul used again the very same word in Romans 16, verse 2 to refer to Phoebe. So Alexander Campbell, Robert Milligan, others in the early years of the Restoration Movement, they commended servants, and those servants were both men and women. We, over the period and the passing of time, made deacon a position in the church to nominate and elect people to a chair on a church board. That's what we did with the word, limiting truly the servant element of meeting the needs of people both in the church and those who are still outside of the church.
There it is. It's many are the needs of the saints. Mm-hmm. In the case of Phoebe, she was a helper of many, the saints.
Yes.
So it wasn't just widows. It was many are the needs. And so the needs were met. And we see that happening throughout Scripture. One of the things I actually haven't mentioned to you, Gary, is that I called you. I was preaching. I was filling in preaching one Sunday for one of our campus leaders who needed to be away. And I called you and I said, what do you guys use or recommend for a spiritual gifts assessment? Mm-hmm. We have one, but I was just curious what you have. We've gone back now that this structure is in place in the last couple of weeks. And we said, let's tie our online on our website, the spiritual gifts assessment, which is a robust assessment. Let's tie it back to the deacon lead servant program, the ministry. And let's not wait for someone to receive their completed spiritual gifts assessment. And they say, hey, Gary Johnson, congratulations. You are a teacher based on your assessment. Congratulations. Now what? So the assessment goes to the lead deacon.
Yep.
And the lead deacon calls Gary Johnson and says, hey, I'm really excited because your assessment shows that you're a teacher. We have 3 areas we'd like to walk with you and explore over the next few weeks.
That's powerful.
To get you plugged into serving. And that's it, right? So that gives us that sort of throughput that says people choose and they assess, but the Spirit guides and leads. And that's really what we're looking for.
And what you're setting up, again, this is very important for people who are listening and are watching. Many congregations right now are having a very difficult time finding volunteers, and people are not returning to church the way that we had hoped. And moreover, they're not stepping up to the plate and serving as volunteers in ways that has been done in the past. So what you're doing, you are opening and creating not only a structure, but you're opening a door to welcome people in, discover your gift, and then somebody can respond to that person and cast the vision for them. Yeah. We need you here. Here we have 3 possibilities here for the use of your gift. That's very powerful.
Well, hey, look, let's talk about. I'm glad you brought it up. Let's talk about a trend that we're seeing in the church. The percentage of staffing according to the total church budgets is rising, right? We're seeing that across our churches, across the country. And what's happening is that people are saying, we can't get the servants, we can't get the volunteers, let's bring in part-time staff. Well, in our case, 32 part-time staff later.
Wow.
We're saying, is this what it takes to get people to serve? And are we really setting a false expectation for what the church is really about, which is the use of the gifts that God has given you? So we believe that growing number across the board, this is happening in churches all across is that we have got to find a way to excite and dig into the passions of our people and call them up as God is calling them. And as well as I do, John 12:26, where I am, my servant will be also. They will grow closer to the heart of Jesus.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, so before we run out of time, did you, as a leadership team, use the book #Deacon Strong, Men and Women Serving Jesus and His Church?
We did.
Okay, and how is that as a resource?
Yeah, so we made a decision that we were going to buy a book for every elder and every deacon, and that was part of the assessment process. So that was we wanted them to be equipped with teaching and with good practice. So everyone went through that before we started the process of taking the assessments, getting people engaged. And I hear to this day when I attend the deacon meetings or we're in the deacon steering group, I hear the book quoted.
Great.
Well, that'll make you feel good. But yeah, people are using it.
Yeah. Well, if you would, if you'll unclick sharing the screen a moment, and I want people to see, all they have to do is go to e2elders.org, and you can click on resources up here at the top. You click on shop, and you'll be able to find this book right here, bright orange cover, #Deacon Strong, Men and Women Serving Jesus and His Church. And in it, there are practical discussion questions about how to further develop an effective volunteer ministry within the church. We're doing entire elder and leadership conferences based on this book. Case in point, Johnson University in Tennessee, they had us to their campus. They film the entire conference. So if people want to have a conference on Deacon Strong, that also is available as a digital download on our website. So, well, Neal, I want to thank you. May people email you if they have questions? Is that all right?
Yep, that would be fine. ndaunhauer@gmail.com.
Okay.
N is in Nancy, DAUN is in Nancy, HAUER @gmail.com. I'd be happy to share.
Yeah, we'll have that on the website, and we're just very grateful for the partnership. We're very mindful of the day that you guys contacted us and invited us to the table. So thank you for being a great church that's leading by example.
Thank you, Gary. It's a pleasure.
It means a lot to us. Blessings, buddy. Bye-bye.